You're having troubles with your computer? Still loading? Just a couple more minutes, Catherine. Just let us know when we're good to go. We're good to go. All right, thank you. Welcome everyone to this County of Newell Council meeting, February the 1st, 2024. I'll call this meeting to order, and we definitely have some empty spaces around our table this morning, so I would like to have a motion to excuse. Holly, you'll make that motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to excuse Arno, Alan, Dan, and Neil.
Thank you. All in favor of Holly's motion? That is carried. Catherine, I just want to confirm, do we have any councillors online? Okay, thank you. Our agenda is, first we'll do the minutes. Minutes from our last meeting, January the 11th. Was there anything you'd like to bring up or discuss about those minutes, or otherwise a motion to adopt? Lynette?
I'll make a motion to adopt those minutes.
Thank you. Any further conversations? All in favor of Lynette's motion? That's carried then. Thank you. Call for posted agenda items. Is there anything to add to the agenda? Seeing none, we will look for a motion to adopt the agenda then. Greg? Greg moves adoption of the agenda as presented. And question period. Oh, all in favor of Greg's motion. I guess we'll vote on that motion. Thank you. Question period or notice of motion. Seeing no questions, we will carry on. Delegations, we have a delegation at 11:45. We have another at 10:45. Cole will be here. Okay, well, we thank Cole for keeping that at home then. Cole apparently will not be attending today, so we'll deal with his report under municipal services. Todd, Ag Service Business. You have a report in our agenda, and maybe you have some more to add to it.
Not a whole bunch more to add to it. I assume it was just so well written, you're all enthralled. You've written down all your great questions, and with such a small crew, we can talk about as much as we want, and nobody's going to get too mad. But just some quick notes. It feels like spring outside, and we're certainly kind of happy and then not so happy about that at the same time. It's nice to have cold weather when we got shop days, but we'll take whatever we get. We did the coyote survey last week, the week before. I forgot to look at those numbers, so I may have to actually send you guys an email on the actual results of that. I apologize. But we do have the job ads out now. Seasonal staff starting to roll in, still getting lots of questions. We kind of have those close in early parts of February, so we can hope to have our interviews when the university kids come home from university for the family week. So that's kind of the goal. Hopefully it works out well. We are expecting a good contingent of returning staff, but you never actually know until everything comes in. We did a pretty major repair on a couple of the drills. We didn't realize, I don't know if you guys have ever utilized a no-till drill system, but they have some wonderful packing wheels on them. Anyways, when we got into changing a few of those out, we realized that about 90% of them were actually cracked on the inside. So I'm kind of one of those things when you're renting things out, you don't want it to go out and have a whole bunch of stuff go wrong. So we spent a considerable amount of time and money replacing those. And it kind of worked out in our favor to some extent. One of those drills is a replacement drill, but it looks like we got our money back on the trade-in value. So that hopefully we got it back anyways, I think. I don't know. Sprayer lineup, I don't know. Can you guys hear me? Am I talking loud enough? Yeah. Well, there's just like this big blank stare over there from Division 2, and I wasn't sure. My apologies. She's just droning it out. Oh, I got to listen to this guy. I love that our meetings are recorded now. And live. Yeah. Anyways, for everybody out in the wonderful world of the internet, Adine is wonderful. So our sprayer lineup is getting a big update this year. It was kind of time to replace one of our handgun truck decks. And when we do that, we build them right from the ground up. So the guy's got all the metal and the tanks and all the electric valves and all that rest of that good stuff. And it's taken shape now. It looks like a handgun sprayer. So that's good. But probably still a week before we put water in it and test things out. We have helped a few producers get their AFP completed over the last few months. One was just a review. It was very simple. And then one we actually worked in my office to get through that. We did host the funding opportunity seminar in Patricia on Tuesday. It was well attended. Foothills Forage did the lion's share of the work. We were just kind of the partners on the ground. So we had about 23 people show up for that, which I thought was pretty good for our area. We don't tend to see big numbers to seminars. So it was, that was fun. There was 3 breakout sessions in the afternoon. Ended up only being 2 breakout sessions because nobody wanted to talk about environmental farm plans in the afternoon. But there was a fella there. He used to manage the Waldron Ranch. Mike Roberts, I believe is his name. He talked to about 10 people about grazing management practices. And then we had another small group that was talking about some of the funding. So the SCAP, Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership grants and things like that. So it was well attended. We were happy to be there and a good cross section too. I mean, not everybody was a producer there. We had one veterinarian, a couple from the banking world. So it was it was a good mix, a great opportunity for people to network. So that was the second part there. Yeah, and so speaking of that kind of thing, lots of partnering going on this winter. We're working with Newell, Rocky View, and Wheatland on a drought resiliency seminar late February. I think it's actually February 28th, so very late. And we're just in the beginning stages of working with special areas and Vulcan County on weed resistance and drought strategies. So it's going to be more centered around kochia, and the special areas has a lot of Russian thistle that's problematic. So it's going to be centered around those. It's going to be, right now, it's looking like it's going to be 3 separate days, a webinar, just kind of over lunch. So you can grab a sandwich and listen to the webinar. It's going to be in March. A couple local people speaking at it. So hopefully everybody out there will take an opportunity to listen. And And then next week, meeting with Mike, I don't know how to say his last name, the principal from Rolling Hills, Flieger, maybe. So we're getting together next Tuesday, and we're going to start the Ag Day discussions. He's going to be our main contact there, but also working with the principals from Alcoma and Tilly. So really looking forward to getting that going. And then at some point, we're also going to be prepping for the South Region ASB conference, and that's at the end of October. So we're just kind of putting that one on the back burner till maybe like June, if that's okay with everybody. It'll be fine. It's fine. And obviously, this has just been a wonderful year for cooperating and getting together and learning. The ASB conference in Lethbridge, I don't know how everybody else felt about it. I seen a lot of smiles. The people that I talked to thought that it was pretty good. There was just the one presentation on the first day, the Tuesday, that I think got a lot of groans, but otherwise, in general, I think it went pretty good. That was the one that me and Gary did. Yeah. But there was some bad jokes, I know. It's hard when you're up there. You can't see if anybody's laughing. You just do your thing. So anyways, that's all I kind of have for you right now.
Thanks, Todd. I have a question for you. Summer's coming, right? And I wondered, in light of the drought, if you would look at the criteria for the beautification program and maybe do some changes to the judging score sheet to make it so that you could get points for drought initiatives. Would that make sense?
Yeah, Will had mentioned there was some talk about that. I don't know where he was at that I wasn't at, but there was some talk about that. So we're going to gear up. We'll probably review the rural beautification policy probably in May before we start advertising. So good thought, good questions. Thank you.
And final comment before I pass it along. Kudos to you and your staff for a great work ethic and presentation and behaving, at least while the rest of us counselors were up anyway. Thanks so much for all your work at the ASB conference last week.
Yeah, so that was me that had kind of mentioned that when we're looking for people to only be watering their lawns every other days or cutting back on watering, that maybe the luscious grass shouldn't be the most, we don't want people, worrying about how dry their grass looks because they're trying to get a beautification award when we're looking for other people to cut back. That was the only thing that.
No, it's a great comment. And I think oftentimes I feel like award is the wrong terminology when we discuss the rural beautification program, because that signifies that there's some sort of competition, and it's really more of a thank you. And I just don't know how to call it a rural beautification thank you. What's that? No, it's not going to fly. No, but yeah. So there's no actual competition, but you're right. It would. It's a good idea. We have had the xeriscaping as one of the components in the past. That's probably 10, 15 years ago. It was never very prevalent in people's yards. So we kind of took that part away, but good to revisit. And I keep stuff forever, so I probably still have that rendition of the policy somewhere that we can look at. Anyways, thank you.
Any other questions for Todd? Holly, thank you.
I realize you don't have the coyote numbers. Would you have an idea on how the bounty program is working? How many coyotes have been brought in?
We really don't have the typical partners, the fur buying partners that we've had in the past. Our one fella from Tilly, they were doing some moving, and they wasn't sure he wanted to be, doing that at the same time as our program. And really, coyotes, the fur isn't really worth a lot right now, so that's also one of the negatives. But yeah, we're quite a ways down. Typically in a normal December, especially a cold December, which we didn't have this year, but we'll see upwards of 400, 500 coyotes come in. This year we were just, I think, under 200, and January wasn't looking super high either. January is our biggest month by far. It's around 800, and I think that's typically just because it's typically colder, and they kind of start getting together just before breeding season, and January seems to be when they find who they want to do that with. I don't know how to put that properly. And we do see a lot, but yeah, we're way down in our numbers, way down in our control numbers, way down. We have heard, and anecdotally, a lot of problem coyotes this year. We've had a few producers that have called in and mentioned that the coyotes are right in, like purebred, that they're right in the calving pens with the purebred animals. One fella had, nips at the back end of a heifer that was having trouble calving. So hearing those kinds of things, it's unfortunate that we don't have good control all the time. But they were able to get a few, but we're just hoping it's the right ones, right? So need a little more hunting pressure out there, I think.
Greg?
And Todd, just to let you know, I've had a couple calls about coyotes in the hamlets, especially Lake Newell Resort. So they're out there. They're becoming more and more comfortable with human beings, and yeah, this program's pretty important. So Yeah, the ASB, your department handles the coyotes and the hamlets and things like that also, is that correct?
We certainly can. Yeah, we try when we do engage with hunters when we have problems in hamlets, and we've had problems on the north end of Brooks before. We engage with the hunters that can try to call them out of those areas. Sometimes there's mechanisms that we can use. Roadkill, for instance, is one. If we can strategically place our natural disposal areas, we can try to call coyotes into those natural disposal areas after the fact. So yeah, there's some things that we try to do, but it's the coyotes on the landscape are a good thing, but there's the ones that are problematic that we try to get, and it's just tricky because you can't recognize them. You know, it's. Good question.
Any other questions for Todd? If not, a motion to accept Todd's, Holly? Oh, it just left you? Maybe it'll come. Okay. Okay, it came back.
Sorry, that's really embarrassing. When I was chatting with Wheatland County, and they were talking about Egg Smarter in Olds, that they typically they go to that, or they don't go to their Fieldman go to that, and they're going to start having counselors at least attend partly. Would you see value in that? I'm not really familiar with it.
I have seen the agenda for that one before. I don't know what it's actually called in Olds, but they do talk about a lot of the emerging, I don't know, like technology that's coming into agriculture and what they're doing at Olds. I think the last time I looked at the agenda, the one thing that was interesting to me was the new collars, the no fence collars for livestock. So there might be some benefit, especially for anybody that's got agriculture roots. There would be a lot of good information there for sure.
Does someone from your department go? No, okay.
No, it's in August. July or August. Like, it's a really interesting time. Like, for our ag programming, we're pretty busy that time of year.
Okay. Thanks for that. Motion to accept Todd's report, Lynette. All right. All in favor of Lynette's motion? That's carried. Thank you. Have a great day. All right. 9.1. Good morning, Maria. Welcome.
Good morning.
We have a skeleton crew for you here today, but we're here for you to present your report.
Okay, well, I'll go through this. I'll try to be quick. This is just a year in review. So in 2023, some of the big projects that we completed in our department were adopting the municipal development plan. We reviewed and revised the municipal reserve policy, updated the safety code policy, and our department intern wrapped up his time in the county mid-2023. We had 13 approved subdivision applications. We saw the creation of 16 new lots and 14 lots where the boundary lines were adjusted. So that includes 8 new lots at the Bizano Airport. That subdivision has yet to be finalized, but it's been approved. We had one subdivision and development appeal for the self-storage facility at Lake Newell Resort, and the appeal board upheld the decision of MPC. We had 3 road closure applications, one for irrigation expansion, one to close a road to reduce trespassing on adjacent lands, and one to rectify an encroachment of a ag building. All 3 of those road closures are with Alberta Transportation for approval. We did 6 land use amendments that received 3rd reading. 2 of these applications were for business opportunities, including an electric vehicle charging station and a landfill facility. 2 applications were to allow for agriculture practices on small parcels that had been previously zoned residential, and 1 for the purpose of subdivision, and as well as another one to amend the hamlet boundaries after we did the MDP update. Development permits are always kind of a steady project for Channelee. Residential developments included 9 manufactured homes, 13 new single-family dwellings, and 1 previously lived-in dwelling that was moved into the county, and 4 additions to homes. We saw additions to JBS, ICI, and the Rolling Hills Campground, and then a few new businesses that were approved by MPC. For construction permits, the construction permits are required by the Alberta Safety Codes Act, and the county works to provide that service to the residents. So a total of 401 construction permits were applied for in 2023 for a total cost of approximately $164,000. Of those construction permits, 48% are for electrical. And then the department, I think, had a pretty successful 2023, and we're looking forward to what 2024 has in store. That's all from me.
Okay. Thanks, Maria. Questions? Council have Lynette.
So the road closures are all still with Alberta Transportation. It seems like we did them a long time ago, or some of them. So how long does it usually take to come back from them? And then the second part of the question is that Class 2 landfill, how long might that take before we know whether that is approved or not as well?
Maria.
Those are good questions that I really don't have answers to. Alberta Transportation, it really is a mixed bag. Sometimes they come in pretty quickly, and when I say quickly, I mean within 6 months. But it really depends on the year, the political atmosphere, what their staffing is like. It's really uncertain. And then the Class 3 or 2 landfill, pardon me, they, I believe, are still waiting on Alberta environment approval. And as far as when that's going to be constructed, I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, Greg.
With respect to the inspection service, Park Enterprises, are we happy with what they're doing? Are they doing a good job, or did we make a good decision with going with them back in the day when we approved the park to handle those for permitting and things like that? Because I know that I believe Park was that on an individual basis they charge for, or was it a blanket basis? I'm trying to remember what it was, but I think they were probably the best decision, but just asking if we're happy
Couple
with it.
questions there,
Yeah.
Maria. Thanks.
So Park Enterprises charges on a per permit basis. They receive 70% of the permit fee, and then the county retains 30%. Their services did not meet expectations for a little while, not that long ago. So we have had several discussions with them, and we're keeping an eye on the services that they're providing, and they are improving. They had some internal conflicts, some staffing issues, and I do believe we're on the tail end of that. I think that they are improving, but we always invite anyone who has any problems with the inspection services or any of the process to come chat with us, because the reason the county is involved in this is to provide a more efficient service to residents. There are some municipalities that are not accredited, which means that anyone who requires a construction permit can go to any one of the agencies to get that permit, and then the municipality doesn't see the benefit, and it's also not regulated really in that sense. So yeah, there has been some problems, but I think we're doing better.
Great. Any other, Holly?
On the development permits, you don't have comparative to other years, but I'm assuming it is similar?
Yes, I think that part got deleted from or it just didn't show up. So sorry about that, but it is comparative. We are a little bit slower in development permits than we have been in previous years. And when I mean slower, I mean the number of permits showing on our statistics are lower. But we still are busy with people inquiring, and there is still, buzz. It's just not coming through on the numbers.
Yep. Go ahead.
And a second question, for all these stats, I'm just trying to clarify, I know some of them you've done, but you're waiting for Alberta Transportation, but does this reflect the work you guys have done this year? Is that a better, as opposed to when the government gives you final approval? How would you clarify that for me?
Go ahead, Maria.
So I guess for road closures, that's really an application-based project for us. So it really depends on how many pivots are going up and where those pivots are going. So as far as numbers for road closures, that can really kind of be a mixed bag from year to year. That number will probably increase in the years ahead based on where we go with the road closure project. So as far as how that reflects what we're doing, that's a bit tricky.
Okay, go ahead.
I wasn't addressing like road closure, like things like subdivisions, like everything in general, because you're always in a state of waiting. You do all this work and then you wait and wait and wait to land titles or whoever else. So as a general rule, is this reflecting the end where you're doing all the work or the end where you're getting the final approval when you have the numbers and the stats? Sorry, I didn't ask the question correctly.
So in these stats, which it's a little, because of that reason, it's hard to really get everything congruent, I guess. So for the subdivision stats, the number of approved subdivisions is when they've been decided on by MPC. So once the approval happens, in 2023, we had 13. Those might not be finalized until 2024. So that's why there's sometimes a little bit of a difference between the lots that have been created and the boundary line adjustments and the approvals. So the lots that have been created are completed, and the approved are could have been but might not have.
Thank you. Great.
This may be a dumb question. What does PSDS stand for in the construction permits? I don't know what that acronym is.
Not dumb. Personal septic disposal system.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's perfect. Thank you. I'm putting it, and I'll probably ask you next year when you give this report again. As far as the building permits go, is it possible to split those out from commercial, ag, dwelling, or private structure? I know I believe the ag doesn't need a permit. Is that correct? So this would be mostly. These would be commercial and private, and what would be the breakdown between those two? I need to. It'd be nice to know if we're increasing on our commercial building or whether it's personal dwelling buildings or whatever. I think that'd be a good thing to have in there.
Thank you. Maria, I have a question, and it's kind of a new practice of the banks, right? They write in and ask whether a property's in compliance. How many letters would you estimate you get, or how many requests do you get a month? Because that's time consuming, and it's a new practice that banks have started doing. And have we ever slowed, well, we've obviously had out of compliance properties, so can you comment on that? Because that's not reflected in your report at all.
That's a good question, and that's something that I should start including stats on. So I don't have those numbers in front of me, but we have been doing compliance reports for a long time. So what we see is if someone is selling a property, then there's the request for a compliance report to ensure that the property meets the standards of the land use bylaw. In some cases, this report isn't requested, and then the new owners will want to build or do something, and then it will be a major problem because they didn't know that their shop is actually located over top of the property line, or, you know, they find these surprises that had they requested the compliance report, that wouldn't have happened. So I do think it's very good practice, but as far as numbers, I don't have them in front of me.
That's fine. Any other questions, Matt?
Maria, would you speak to the benefit of the first two, and it's actually been 3 Municipal Planning Commission meetings this year that have not had to be held? And am I right in assuming that may be linked to some of the improvements to our land use bylaw and the additional authority we've given our development officer, and how that maybe translates to more efficient development for folks who want to get something done? Am I right in that assumption?
Maria?
Yes, I do think that that's a correct statement. So the land use bylaw amendment was really to reduce red tape. We used historical permits that had constantly come to MPC and decided, well, maybe this is something that could be permitted because they were always just being approved. So that has reduced the need for us to come to council. I think it's been pretty successful. The numbers are also down a little bit as far as subdivisions and development, but it's also January, so that's kind of typical. But yeah, I really agree with that statement.
Well, that was the purpose of the rewrite, so it's working. Thanks, Maria. Holly?
So Greg's question gives me another question. So farm buildings do not need a development permit, but when they're getting their electrical inspected and all that, that's the county's ask or an ask for insurance? Like, are you requesting when you put up a shop to have the electrical permit done, or is that just people do that for insurance?
Maria?
Construction permits are mandated by the Alberta Safety Codes Act. So anyone who's building an ag shop, and there are some exemptions with construction permits based on what that shop is being used for, but ag shop or not, there are responsibilities of that landowner and that builder to get construction permits.
But nothing with the county? If it's an ag building, we're just clear from it completely?
Well, we don't receive a development permit to follow up that those construction permits are being obtained, but an ag development can come to the county to request those construction permits. So if they put up a shop, let's say it doesn't require a development permit, but they know, oh, we need a gas permit, an electrical permit, and a PSDS permit, then they can come to us and we can be the middleman for that process.
Any other questions of Maria? A motion to accept the annual report? Amanda?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. All in favor of the motion? That's carried. Thanks, Maria. Okay. County of Newell Library Board, 9.1. 9.2? Yes, thank you. Lane. Okay, thank you, Matt.
Yeah, so I'll take this one. It's pretty standard. All we're looking for here is a motion to appoint Elaine Marzolf as the County of Newell Library Board Financial Reviewer. This is really a formality for the Library Board.
Who was first? Holly, please. Holly and then Adina.
I make the motion we appoint Elaine Marzolf as the auditor.
Adina, do you have a comment? Were you? Okay. All in favor of Holly's motion? That is carried. Thank you. Lynette, anything you want to add to that conversation? Okay. Thank you. Just checking in with you because that is your committee. Now, 9.3, electoral boundaries. Matt, you'll take this one.
You bet. So no mystery here. Council approved the terms of reference for the public consultation and engagement. We've kicked around some concept maps, keeping in mind that the final map could be a combination of any of the four or something completely different, depending on the feedback we receive from our public. I need to give thanks to Catherine for all of the mock-ups that we have in front of you. Some of the feedback from previous engagements we get is that, we're pretty heavy on the online digital engagement, and we need to do more on folks who might walk into the post office, and that's where they get their information. So we'll have for council, if you like what you're seeing for the ads, we'll have posters for you to take back to your communities to pin up. And we also thought, we're going to be advertising in the paper. Why don't we just put the survey in the full page ad? And if you want to cut and mail the survey in, you just cut and kick it in. So we've got the full page ad going in the paper. We're going to advertise online in the bulletin, on the Jumbotron if the Bandits have any more games in the interim, unfortunately. And we're planning to have an open house after our next council meeting on February 15th. 4 to 7, we'll have coffee, light refreshments, have the big wall size maps, and we'll chat with our neighbors and get their 2 bits. I'm really interested to hear what residents on those boundary lines have to say, and hopefully we get some good feedback and find out if we're keeping communities together as much as possible. So this is in front of you for your review and hopefully approval, and we're open for questions.
Questions? Greg?
Yes, thanks, Matt. The QR code on the I believe this is the ad. Anyway, that takes you to the survey right directly, or does it show the whole sheet, or is it survey individually?
Yeah, great question. So we've tried hard to keep all of the content the same. So what you see in the paper is what you'll see online. That QR code does take you to the SurveyMonkey survey, where you answer all the same questions you would if you did it through the newspaper.
Holly?
I wonder if we want to change the language a little bit in the ad, something maybe more to how could the maps be improved instead of just share any comments, might garner more feedback that way, because we talked earlier maybe not having people just pick a map, but give a little more feedback as to why they liked it. I'm wondering if that'll help get a few more comments.
Matt, sorry.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. So maybe in that bottom box where it says, please share any comments, questions, and or concerns, maybe we could reword it to say something like, how could the maps be improved? Followed by, please share any comments, questions, and or concerns.
Yeah, it's pretty well stated there already.
Well, people, it's open-ended though, right? They say, or how do you improve your favorite map? You know, just trying to garner a little more feedback. Because you might say, well, I love number 1, but, you know, you could improve it by doing whatever. You know, it's trying to get more information.
We are here to give direction, so Matt's received some direction. Do you have a way to fix that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think it could be as simple as picking the box where you ask them, how could your favorite map or how could any of the maps be improved?
Okay, just ask the question. So can we get a motion to approve as edited, please? Greg will make that motion. Any further comments? Call the question. All in favor of Greg's motion to approve as edited? That is carried. That is 9.3 off our agenda. Moving along. Cole won't be here, so let's just do 9.4 on the way down. Functions of council. I'll start with the information that we received for February the 9th, and that is the request for representation at the CRA Policing Academy. Thank you. We just received that yesterday. And Amanda has indicated that she is planning to go. And so I would like to make a motion that that be a function of council, representing council. Any other comments? All in favor of my motion? That is carried. Clarification. Go ahead, Greg.
So I was thinking of going also.
You're welcome to
So
go.
is that okay, or is it just Amanda, or?
Well, it would be her function of council. She'll be a part of the presentation.
Oh, okay.
I've been to this before, and it's a marching ceremony.
Oh,
And
okay.
and the kids go through a drill, and they present the dignitaries, and
Okay.
it's a bit of an event
Yeah.
for the kids. Yep. Holly.
I was a little confused by the wording because it talked about cadets, but this has nothing to do with the cadet program. This is just this week they had of the RCMP camp.
So maybe it's not the same event that I attended. I attended a cadets event.
This one's different, I think.
Okay. So I'm not sure what's expected. I think we're all invited. It's just, my feeling is that it's not a function of council. It's a community event that you're welcome to attend. No different than a Bandits game or something like that, okay? But they do appreciate, well, I'm assuming they will appreciate you attending as representing council. And if you find that it's not, maybe you don't write it down. It's entirely, but the motion is made and carried, so. Deal? Okay, we'll know for another time. Because Police Academy is new, isn't it? It's, anyway, all right. 9, Lynette. Mm-hmm.
It's a little after the fact, but the Martin Shields little spiel the other morning that Greg took the lead on. Do we usually have that as a function of council? I don't remember us actually talking about that.
Typically not. I've attended many times over the years, and it's, the Reeve typically is, and Greg attended in the Reeve's absence. The Reeve asked me to attend. I wasn't able to because of SEWA, and so I asked Greg to fill in for my absence. But though that's a political party, a political forum, that unless council feels differently, but we don't typically get paid to be politically charged.
Does Arno claim that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Were you asked to present?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, so you were representing the county of
Just
Newell.
for attending, though, we wouldn't claim that just for attending. Okay.
Not typically.
Thank you.
Holly?
Some of us attended the Rec Connect on Tuesday evening as county councillors, and I'm wondering if that is seen as a function of council, since that was the reason we attended, or not. Where would we fall with that?
Did we not make a motion on that one already? You don't, eh? As a function of council, okay. All right. Greg?
Yeah, I'll make that motion that it's a function of council, the people that did attend that.
Okay. Any further conversation on that? Yeah, Amanda?
I would just like, when we attended Share the Way on the 25th for the Alberta Healthcare, is that a function of council?
Okay. Yeah, we'll deal with this one first. We have a motion on the floor. All in favor of Greg's motion to make Rec Connect a function of council? That is carried. Now we'll talk about the Alberta Health Services meeting that I don't know, did everybody get invited to that one? I don't know how I received an invitation. Oh, I received it through Amanda. And Amanda, you received it through Prairie Rose Hospice. Okay. So what it ended up being was a conversation with consultants on how to do healthcare in Alberta better. They indicated the 4 new pillars of healthcare in our province, and they were looking for feedback on how to make the transition to the 4 new pillars as simply and efficiently as possible. There was caregivers in the room, retired nursing staff, there was doctors in the room. I would say there was probably 30 people in the room. I might suggest that Amanda and I were the only community members, non-healthcare members. It was quite an interesting conversation. We broke out into 3 tables, and had same conversation at each table, facilitated by consultants. So it's a good question. What does council feel about that? Holly?
I guess the question would be, would you feel you're representing your personal views or was it do you feel you're representing the county? I think that's where the decision would come down.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I introduced myself as County of Newell at the table, but of course, all the information that came out of my mouth was personal experience, right? Same as the RNs that shared theirs. It was all their personal experience through their work. So it's an interesting one. I think I did charge, actually, because it was last month. It was in January, but it can always come off if we choose not. Great.
I'd like to motion that that's a function of council.
Okay. Further comments? Call the question then. All in favor of the Alberta Health Services meeting being a function of council? That is carried then. And Greg, go ahead.
I see the EID AGM is on March 5th. Is that a function of council? What's that?
I didn't understand what you said.
The EID AGM?
AID. Oh,
EID AGM is on March 5th, yeah.
yes.
At the Heritage Inn at 1:30.
Holly?
Our past practice has been that wasn't a function of council.
We're encouraged or welcome to participate, but that's another level of government, and good answer. I thought you were referring to the February 5th AIDA convention on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And just to remind council that Holly and I are attending on behalf of the County of Newell. Okay. Any other functions of council that you know of? Okay, we'll move along. Mark, would you like to carry on?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Just a monthly report for you today. Partner hourly commitments for municipal enforcement carry on business as usual now that we've got our full appointments with our second officer. So that's going business as usual. You can see that there were 30 warnings, 25 tickets, 19 investigations conducted in the past month. Along with that, officers continue working with the EID and on EID lands with off-trail use and stuff like that. Fleet services, obviously we had some extreme cold weather, so they were kept a little bit busy keeping equipment running, but minus 40, we do try not to put equipment out there unnecessarily. So there were a number of staff that took some time off. Work wasn't necessary to be conducted then, so that was great on their part. Operations wise, grader operators, you know, we keep contending with we're either in winter or we're not in winter. We have washboard or we don't have washboard. We have frozen conditions, and they just kind of wrestle with some of that here when we go through these Chinook-like weather systems. And they've been keeping busy with their brush control program because that's what they do when they're not out there snow plowing or grading roads. Truck drivers, they've been tending to paved roads whenever that need has arisen, but it's been very limited for this season, and it shows in their progress with the gravel stockpiling program being 60% complete as of the date of preparation of this report. Maintenance operators, variety of assignments, 6 sign repairs, guardrail was damaged, so they've got that repaired as well. Working on winter hamlet snow and ice control, as well as snow and ice removal from the hamlets for the little bit that we've had to do. And they've been out there collecting our culverts to add to our asset management in our GIS system. So that's ongoing. Capital equipment's been ordered for what was approved in the interim capital budget. And the administrative assistant, manager of operations, and information technology manager met to discuss development of a public laserfiche form for the dust abatement program. So for those people that would be able to go online and fill out their application, that way they don't have to come to the office or mail something in to us. We could do online payment and stuff as well. So finally, getting some of my wishes. That one's been on the list for over a decade to try to get something more than just a paper copy, and we'll see what they can turn around with that, but very hopeful of what they can accomplish. Rural Water Project, you can see the update. Updates are generally put up on the website. Due to the new website coming about, it may not be as current as current could be, but as things progress, whether the new website gets pushed back for release or whether it comes sooner than later, things will be current. Tilly landfill reclamation remains in progress. It's slow going. We're still waiting with the Alberta Environment and the owners of the soil that was deposited there a while ago to work through those matters. Gravel resource exploration, slow progress, but progress is progress, so not throwing a panic alarm on this, but we do hope to have a report to us very, very soon. Rural road study final draft copy has been provided to us. Jeff and other team members have been going through that, working through it before we bring it forward to council for your review and adoption. Other business, staff has been very appreciative with the time off over Christmas, and this year nobody got called out to work, so everybody got to spend time with friends and family and have a great break. And then Jolene also assisted the agricultural services team get their matters together for the conference that you just attended in Lethbridge. So that's where the department's been. And I guess to piggyback off of what Director of Ag had to say, we also have an advertisement out for our seasonal laborers for the year. I think we got just about a full page advertisement running there for the various positions that are available. So key dates on that is February 9th is the cutoff, and as Todd reported, that's for the purposes of trying to catch those university, college, tech students coming back during family week and trying to get them interviewed at that time for as many as we can accommodate. So if there's any questions, I'll gladly do my best to answer.
Questions for Mark? Oh, that's me. Oh boy. I was gathering my question together for Mark instead of. Okay, so Mark, lots of activity at the Bazzano Grader Yard. Looks like they're moving in for quite a spell. How long do you suspect the activity will be there?
Oh boy.
That's Excalibur, right?
9-12 months, Jeff?
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's good to see activity there. It's good to have a busy yard. I think I had one more question for you too, but it's not coming, so I will leave it at that. Holly, fill the gap here. Thank
I
you.
just wondered what's happening at Bazzano.
Oh, that Jeff has worked with a contractor just to set them up. That's their home base yard for doing rural water projects. So storage of materials, equipment, and just use it as a job site, so they didn't have to seek anything out on private land.
Holly?
I do have a question though about studies. Been in council for 2 years, and I'm just amazed the length of time it takes to get a study completed on anything. Like it is just mind-boggling that anything is at least a year. Can you explain why things take forever to come back to us?
Not really, because it's really in the holder of the person to produce the product at the end of the day. Jeff and I have been discussing this one, and we've been discussing how you hold those firms accountable to timelines and stuff. What we're into with gravel resource and other matters, it's not something that is going to be easily severed with somebody to try to get somebody else to pick up and carry on with. And that's why I said, so long as we have progress, I'm not that concerned, but we do have to get to an end date. And this gravel resource is something new for ourselves as well, but it's not something new to municipalities and having gravel studied. So we're new to it. We know that we have the right firm for it because they are going to produce an excellent report out of things, just as long as we're making progress. We're not overpaying, we're not underpaying, we're paying for what we committed to with that contract. Just how do you hold them accountable to the timelines is a concerning part, and I don't know.
Yeah, Matt.
Mark, or maybe Jeff, can you speak to some of the actions that have had to take place, some of the mechanics behind searching for the gravel? And I'm thinking the things that can delay this are, once we've identified a spot, getting access, doing the tests, some of that's.
Thanks. Yeah, I can speak a little bit to that. You know, I do work with and manage a lot of contracted services here, whether it's an engineering company, a gravel resource exploration, whatever it is. You heard Maria speak about Park Enterprises earlier, and I know there were some questions surrounding that. I got to say, first and foremost, you know, not to say any nasty words, but say March 2020. Ever since then, dealing with consultants and having consultants meet your expectations has been an incredible challenge. And, you know, I'm not making excuses for consultants, because they should be bound to the agreement that we've made and be able to deliver what they promise they're going to deliver. But it's not any one singular consultant that has been having these delays, and whether it's staffing, in a lot of cases it was. Maria mentioned that about Park Enterprises earlier this morning, and availability, or exactly what it is. It's been getting harder and harder to hold these general consultants to task and achieve timelines. And like Mark mentioned, we're trying to solve and think of unique ways to write this into our contracts, that, you know, we don't have to cut somebody loose and pick up the pile and give it to somebody else, because that just costs time and money as well, right? To Matt's point, absolutely. You know, this gravel resource exploration, it was a long process, and it's been kind of a phased approach, and again, they didn't stick to their timeline, but we did have to go out, do some preliminary testing. That takes communication with private landowners, and that's one of the things that does take the longest. We go out, we do some testing, they go back, they analyze that at the lab, they go back out, we have to now enter into agreements and actually dig on people's properties, and that is even a little bit touchier of a subject. So just the communication and the back and forth, and the finally coming to terms with people in the gravel resource exploration, for sure, is definitely something that plays into that.
Thanks, Jeff. Any other questions for these gents? Can you tell me any movement on approval of our second CPO? Has he received his?
It has been received, yes, and it was within the 6-week timeline that the department has set for themselves. As we talked before, and as the letter to the minister reflects, it's a little bit concerning. We believe there's some red tape involved in that process, that the officer that we hired came out of a municipality in Alberta, is not asking for any additional authorities to conduct duties here at Newell. And their process of verifying and checking and following through before they authorize those appointments with the new employer seemed cumbersome. You know, sitting with an employee for 6 weeks before they can actually go to work, kind of hard. Some of the process relies on the previous employer of that officer, where the department follows up with them to find out if there was anything. And it's kind of funny why they should need to do that. You know, I guess that would be really how the employment ended, might be a flag or something for the Solicitor General's office. But really, if there's nothing else on the employee's file up until then, I don't know why they have to go through the checks and balances of things that they have identified in their program. And that's what we voiced forward in the letter to the minister, and we'll see if we hear anything back about it.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, great.
Just wondering if you could give a brief update on where we're at with the pathways, you know, as far as the bridge and how we're making out to Lake Newell Resort.
Okay, with the pathways, so everything that was paved as of end of year last year from Kinbrook Island north to Bantry Bay, we advertised that was not going to be maintained over the winter season because it's still under contract with the contractor. We don't want to put equipment and men out there if we damage something. Who's responsible, liable for it? It's under contract. The bridge, I was told, was supposed to be delivered yesterday. I was not here at work yesterday, so I don't know whether it got delivered or not. Timing, good, poor, whatever, I don't know. We got thaw going on right now, and things get rutted up, so I don't know if it did get delivered and what the canal bank looks like, but that's between the contractor and the Eastern Irrigation District. So it's supposed to be on site. The minus 40-degree weather in January pushed everything back at least a week or two from where the subcontractors wanted to be with things. And yeah, I think we're basically on track to see things start as planned for 2024 and get it all complete. From From that, we'll have deficiency lists if there is anything to be done, and that'll have another one year period for warranty work to be carried out. With respect to the Lake Newell Resort pathway, we have a conceptual design done by the engineering firm, which is based off of what the Lake Newell Resort Committee started with. They've looked at water lines, overhead power, other facility conflicts and stuff, and come up with an alignment that they believe is best suited. My next steps, when they're coming out mid-February, to just walk that entire alignment, because it's been a desktop program after survey took place initially. They want to confirm that. When that's been confirmed, I want to meet with that pathway committee, present a couple optional things for them that may or may not change the budget, and hopefully not significantly, but I'll have some numbers behind that, get their direction, and know that what we're proceeding with is what the committee had visioned for the community. And if that's the case, then we'll get things tender ready as promptly as possible following that confirmation, and get after it. So that should be a 2024 construction project as well. If the same contractor gets it, then great. They can just carry on with the work. If it's somebody different, that's great too, as long as we get competitive pricing on it and see what we get. But as per last time, we only had one bid, so I can't guarantee that you'll see competitive pricing other than the price you get may be the best price.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none. We have Cole's report with yours, and I just want to be mindful that if we make a motion, that it would include Cole's report as well. So are there any questions of Cole's report that maybe our staff might be able to answer? Adina? Okay, please.
I'll make a motion, we accept these two reports.
Okay, thank you. All in favor of Adina's motion? That's carried. I would like to take 5 minutes. Now, I'll tell you. 5 minutes, so quarter after, that's 7 minutes, if that's all right. We'll see you in 7. We will resume. Okay, thank you. Jeff, you're bringing us a bridge file. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. I don't like coming with this kind of news, but it's inevitable. It happens when we manage so many structures out on the roadway in the county. So December 18th, 2023, we had our contracted bridge inspector from Tetra Tech inspect bridge file 09180. Upon arriving at the location, he noticed immediately there was voids washing around the pipe. The voids and washing would happen from water getting around the pipe, contravening the clay plugs, or in some cases concrete plugs that are installed at the end of pipes, and going around the outside of the pipe and actually flowing the full way through the road outside of the pipe, taking that sediment, washing it downstream, and creating a void underneath. With the recent cold weather we've had, that's great that the ground's nice and frozen. We don't really have any concerns that anybody's going to go through there. But, because we did get a 2 notification from a certified bridge engineer, that calls for a few things to happen. The things that need to happen is he needs to contact me or the bridge manager, somebody from the county, immediately, either meet them on site or have a good discussion about what needs to be done. From time to time, we have the ability to, post the bridge down to 10 tons, 5 tons, whatever that is. In this situation, because the extent of the tunneling around the pipe, his recommendation was to close it. So in the morning of the 19th, the day after we talked, crews from the county went out and closed Range Road 13-4 at the site where the star is on the map that you can see there. That road remains closed today. This structure is on a major drainage course. It is quite a large structure. It's 21.3 meters long. It's about a 2-meter ellipse pipe, so it's not a perfect circle. It's elongated. And Range Road 13-4 is a local road. It doesn't experience a whole lot of heavy traffic. There are some residents to the south of the bridge file, but really they would access out to the south to leave their house onto Township Road 19-4. So we've discussed with everybody in the area. They're aware of the closure, and we do monitor the road closure to make sure it's closed. Anyways, get into the next part of the conversation. Based on the pipe, and there are some photos included in your package that you can see the voiding around the pipe. It does look like the voids carry the whole way through the road, and there is, as you can see, 5 meters of rod stuck in beside the pipe here, and still can't find the end. So we're under the impression that this void runs all the way through and water's running through it. So it's very important that we get this fixed prior to spring runoff. We're recommending that we replace the pipe. We've got EBA Tetra Tech already working on design and engineering, as well as communication with Alberta Environment, with DFO, and any other bodies that they need to talk to about replacement of this pipe. So I'm here today to ask council to approve an addition to the 2024 capital budget in the amount of $420,000 for the full blown replacement of bridge file 09180. I do hope that we can come in a little bit lower than that. It's pretty tough for me to get an estimate with the little information that we have so far. We've looked at some similar pipe sizes and lengths that have closed recently, and the price that those have closed at. One thing to note here, and you can see it a little bit from the pictures, is there's not a lot of cover over that pipe. So when we put a pipe of equal size, or maybe even a little bit bigger size in, we're gonna have to do a little bit of grade raise on the road, and we're gonna have to bring dirt in, and we're gonna have to raise the road to get that substantial cover over the culvert, that it doesn't fail, and that's kind of dictated by the manufacturer, what they say is the recommended cover. So I'm available to answer any questions. This is not something that happens often, but it's not something that hasn't happened while I've been here. We've had multiple 2 notifications, and we've had to close roads, and kind of jump on the replacement of structures. The most recent one that comes to mind is just east of the village of Dutchess Lagoons. There was a failed concrete drop structure there that was given a 2 notification, and we closed the road and we replaced that. That was in, I want to say 2016, 2017 that we did that. So again, I can answer any questions the council has, but looking for a budget approval.
Lynette, please.
So how does the notification happen? Is it a ratepayer that called in and said there was an issue, or like somebody randomly drives around?
Jeff?
Yep. So the notification happened because we had contracted Tetra Tech out there to give a level 1 bridge inspection to the pipe. Every year, annually, Alberta Transportation mandates a number of bridge inspections that the county must perform to keep up to date, and those bridge inspections go to help us with our long range planning. This bridge hasn't been inspected in a number of years, but it hit the list, and it just happened that we noted the washing, noted the section loss, and that came down. These level 1 bridge inspectors do have to take a quite extensive training course. It's a 1 week in class, 1 week in the field training course. So there are not a lot around the province of people that do this. But again, it came through a mandated inspection, and we inspect probably anywhere from about 13 to 25 bridges a year, depending what transportation gives us on the list. And then if we see other issues above and beyond that, we'll go out and do those inspections as well.
Okay. Lynette?
Well, that's great that we're preemptive on these things before it was a complete fail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Greg, and then Amanda.
Being a EID drain, is there any cost sharing done with the EID on this at all, or is it always the responsibility of the municipality?
We don't currently partner with the EID on the replacement of bridge file structures. The bridge files, the cross-county roads, again, are owned by the province, and the role of management is downloaded to the municipal governments. We replace bridge files in drains, canals, and we've always done that at 100% county cost.
Amanda?
Being this was given a rating 2, can you tell me the rating system?
Short answer, no. But I can give you a little bit of a background on it. 2 is very, very next to like imperative critical. If it was given a 1 notification, it would have been noted for immediate failure. In that situation, the inspector is mandated to actually have equipment in his vehicle to stop traffic from crossing the bridge until somebody actually shows up on site from the bridge management authority, which would be the county, and meets him and formally closes the road. A 2 notification is a little bit less than that. They say there's probably not immediate failure, but there is a chance that if something happened, if a loaded Super B, we can't be positive, but something could possibly fail, or it will fail in the future. A 2 notification, you are allowed to mitigate it. So you're allowed to reduce the weight rating. You're allowed to do what you deem necessary to make it safe and passable, but leave the road open. From there, it goes up 3 all the way to 10. A 10 would be a brand new bridge. As part of these mandated bridge inspections, the inspectors go out and they rate a lot of things about a bridge. A culvert is just one type of bridge. We've got standard span, like concrete deck bridges, which then there's, 2 parts of the bridge. There's the deck, and then there's the substructure underneath with the girders and the wing walls and everything else. So they go through their form, and it's very involved and talks about a lot of things. And they'll give it a structural rating, and that structural rating is what dictates that 1 to 10 score on the chart. The structural ratings also used in a number of other instances. We know from experience that there are specific structural ratings and general ratings that, would make a bridge file STIP eligible, or the STIP people would look at it. So we're trying to pick and work our way through our long-term budget and align correctly so we can have some of those bridges available for replacement every year and get those STIP applications in to try to receive funding. So that was a lot of talking, and I'm not sure I explained the rating system, but it's very involved. Like I say, it is a 2-week course, but I think 1 bad, 10 amazing.
My next question then, there is people moving the barricades and driving across, but it is a 2 for people can go across it. Is there, if something was to happen, is the county liable?
Yeah, that's actually a great question, and risk mitigation is a really dangerous thing to talk about and get after. We've got the road signed closed at either end. There's barricades at the bridge, so if somebody were to have an issue going across that bridge because they didn't pay attention to the road closure, they would be at fault, and the county wouldn't be liable for that. We do our due diligence, and we have been going out and dragging those barricades back into place earlier in January and December. That was a daily occurrence. We'd go back, we'd check it. With the cold weather that we've received and the additional frost in the ground, me and in discussion with Glenn and Jenna at Tetra Tech, we feel, it's probably a little bit lower risk now that there's going to be a failure because of how that ground has frozen up. So now we're going out twice a week to make sure that the barricades are in place.
Any other questions? Holly?
I think you mentioned that the length of the culvert seemed very long, given the road. And I'm wondering how far it goes out. It looks kind of cut, and it goes out quite a ways on either side. Is that the design of it?
It is a long culvert because there is a bit of a fill there, but it's a deep drain as well, right? So if we've got an 8-meter road top, we've got 4-to-1 side slopes down to hit the top before the beveled ends start. And that pipe does have not very much cover, but it goes out as 21.3 meters. So it is wider than the road allowance even. It sits outside of there, yes.
Is that a significant cost when... Is that that's not much of the cost compared to the actual construction piece, correct?
Yeah, the cost of the pipe will be the smaller portion of the cost compared to the effort to put it back in and the road grade raise after. Historically, we've been, 10 years ago when we were replacing bridges, we would put it all in the tender and have the contractor supply the pipe. More recently, we've got figured out that we've experienced some price savings. Once we get the culvert designed, I'll get a culvert ordered sheet and I'll go out and get quotes from the various culvert manufacturers in Alberta, and I'll buy the pipe, get it on site while we're still working on the tender and securing a contractor. Because if we wait to secure the contractor and then ask them to order the pipe, we might have a 3 or 4 week lead time to order a pipe of this size and length. So I'm going to get it here while we're still trying to solicit a contractor. And by the time we have the contractor wrapped up and the pipe wrapped up, it just will make it more efficient and a better chance of us getting that road open before spring thaw.
Yep, Greg, general question?
I have another really smart question, I tell you. I'm full of them today.
General or a major question?
No, it's a major question. No, it's not a major. Okay, so when we look at these bridges over third-party structures or third-party needs, this being the EID, who was there first? Was the road there first, or was the canal? Was the drain there first? And if that's I don't know. I'm just questioning as to why are we fixing something that is needed by a third party?
So that is a major question, so we'll go to the major. Matt?
This is a question staff have kicked around, and so I'm going to ask who's here first. Well, the county in its current form incorporated 1953, so I think EID was here first. And then I would just offer this perspective. Largely, the ratepayers for the county of Newell are the same ratepayers for the EID. So you can split hairs about who's going to split the bill. It's coming out of the same pockets ultimately, largely.
Okay. Jeff, you want to add to that?
Yeah, and it's not really, I'm not going to add anything on the principle of it really, but, Alberta Transportation is the owner of all these bridge files, no matter whose infrastructure they lie on. And the reason Alberta Transportation is the owner of these bridge files is because bridges are dangerous for the public that are driving down the road. And that's their main concern. Their main concern is that they're constructed appropriately for the vehicles driving across them. They're, the clear zones are appropriate. The AD is worried about the water flow, and we're worried about the water flow, but Alberta Transportation owns them and manages them because of the safety factor. And that's why there's a lot of, criteria, and I don't want to call them hoops to jump through, but a lot of permitting and double checks and cross checks before you can just go slap a culvert back in, like of this size.
Thanks, Jeff. And we are the keeper of the roads. So, Adina.
I'm ready to make a motion
Okay.
that we approve the funding of $420,000 from the infrastructure fund for the replacement of this bridge.
Great. Any further comments, questions? All in favor of Adina's motion? That is carried then. Let's talk about something else. Tilly desludging and land acquisition. We need to buy some land.
Land application, not acquisition.
Application.
All good. So as per the interim budget, we had already investigated the sludge component of the lagoons. Sludge accumulates over time because those are the solids that settle out in the bottom of through the lagoon treatment of wastewater. Identified in that as lagoon cells 1 through 6 are in need of cleaning, and that just restores capacity for proper treatment of wastewater flowing into those lagoons. So with that, interim budget had the funding allocated to it. Just because of purchasing policy and the thresholds of that, I am here to ask council to approve Lambourne Environmental Limited, their proposal of $581,500 to get the desludging complete. As part of that, you can see that there were only 2 companies that provided pricing on that, and it was determined by NRSC that Lambourne is the most beneficial to the county based on what they had committed to and where the other company had failed to be able to firm things up.
Thanks, Mark. And this project has been on the books for how many, 10 years?
Nope.
Just?
Yeah,
Okay.
the survey was completed just in 2023, so
Okay.
in time for interim budget to happen, and if we can get funding going through your approval today for one of the 2 companies, because there's really nobody else in Alberta that'll look at it, so.
Okay. Greg?
Matt, what did we budget for on this?
600,000.
Amanda?
Mark, I got a few questions for you. Under the Alberta application for biosolids, the criteria comparison, they say the sulfurous metals ratio is rejected. So what happens then?
Oh, that's kind of beyond my level of things. That's why we employ these guys to get through the study and ensure that whatever is being applied for on the land is acceptable to Alberta environment and what the land can actually accept and handle. So that's really where I'm going to have to leave it on that one. It is like other things. You can't overload the soils, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise you sterilize them. So.
Okay, I just read that in the report and was curious. Also, in cleaning cells 3 and 4 may improve effluent qualities going into cell 5, which reduces solids that transfer into larger cells. And of course, there's no guarantees. Is that going to be, is there extra costs for cleaning that up?
Well, this cost is for all of cells 1 through 6.
Okay.
So, and what you have going on is when your raw sewage flows into the lagoons, you have anaerobic cells where there's biological breakdown of everything that's coming into that. And as things progress through the cells, you want it to be more watery, and then you hit a storage cell. And generally it's a 12-month capacity of storage that you need in that for that water, that effluent quality to become releasable as per environment's guidelines. So if you can wrap your head around it, by the time it hits that last storage cell, you're supposed to be able to take a glass of water and drink it.
So my next question is, the requests were partly recommendations with respect to Swan River wastewater cell. Why Swan River?
I think that one was an error in some other stuff, but it could be a reference point too. I wasn't sure about that, and I didn't ask.
Okay.
NRSC oversaw the study component and provided us a recommendation on who they want to proceed with.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
Lynette, go ahead.
I didn't see where they laid this out, but for the land application, does the county secure somewhere for the application, or is that done through the environmental company?
Lambourne will be dealing with that with NRSC and ourselves working on it, but it has to be suitable to be able to receive it first.
So as per the RFD, staff is looking for direction. Recommendation is that council approve Lambourne Environmental proposal in the amount of $581,500. Holly?
I will make that motion.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions on the subject? All in favor of the motion? That is carried then. Thanks, gentlemen. And we are very close to being on schedule. Good job, everyone. I'd like to welcome our delegation to the front, please. Welcome, ladies. We'll do some introductions just in case we don't all know everybody. We'll start with Amanda, please.
Good morning, ladies. Amanda Philpott, Division 8, Duchess.
Good morning. I think you know me, but Greg Screever, Division 5, Lake Newell Resort and Castles.
And Kelly Chrisman, and I'm chairing today in the absence of our Reeve.
Nice to see you. Matt Fensky, CAO.
Good morning, Holly Johnson, Scandia, Rainier, and Bow City.
Good morning, Nadina Scandrip, Division 2, the area around Tilly Hamlet.
Good morning, I'm Lynette Kopp, Division 3, Patricia Millicent area.
And I'll let you introduce yourselves, and then we have some staff to your right. So go ahead, Kelly. You want to start?
Kelly Sanford. I was acting as the Summer Games Chair. Coordinator.
And Randy McPhillips, I'm the Manager of Recreation Services with the City of Brooks.
Lisa Tiffin, the Manager of Community Development for the City of Brooks.
Catherine Siakla, Communications Officer.
Ariana Nielsen, Executive Assistant. Sandra Stanway, Brooks Bulletin.
Thanks, everybody, and welcome to Council, County of Newell. Go ahead with your report.
All right, well, thank you so much for having us this morning. Really appreciate your time. So we already went through introductions, so we'll just start our overview of the games. We're going to talk a little bit about everything from the planning and kind of striking of the committee all the way through evaluations and what we learned from the games. So the games took place August 17th to 20th, 2023. Included 15 different competitions, so everything from 8-ball pool to track and field. There was arts and crafts, floor shuffleboard, military whist, pickleball. There was a whole bunch of different competitions that were held throughout the city of Brooks and some in the region in the county as well. A little bit of timeline of events. Participants arrived on Thursday, August 17th, had the opening ceremonies that night. Competitions took place on the Friday and Saturday, and then we had some pretty big social events. Friday night, we had a street dance with some entertainment downtown by City Hall, and then Saturday, we had our big banquet. We used a number of different facilities, so these included the JBS Canada Centre, the Brooks Legion, the Medium, which is the Arts, Culture, Heritage Centre in Brooks, Evergreen Park, Eastbrook Elementary, Evergreen Activity Centre. We had cycling out in Patricia, the Brooks Golf Club, Brooks Horseshoe Pit, the Regional Ballpark, Griffin Park School, and Brooks Junior High. The Games Planning Committee organizational structure consisted of the Games Coordinator, which was our hired position that Kelly fulfilled. And then we had volunteer positions, the Games Chairperson, and a number of key coordinator roles, and then subordinate chair positions as well. So we're going to go over a more detailed org chart here in a couple slides. So it started out with submitting the bid to host the games. So we submitted the bid to the Alberta 55 Plus board in July 2022, and we were awarded the games at that time. The bid committee then kind of transformed into the planning committee for the games. The committee was comprised of city staff, city councilor, county councilor, Brooks Region Tourism, and then a number of community volunteers. It was decided by that committee that it would be beneficial to actually form a nonprofit society to help with funding for the games, to get a casino, and to help raise some of the money to host the games. And the Brooks Newell Summer Games Society was created December 22nd, 2022, and that Games Society still exists today, so we hope to continue that as well. The planning committee expanded as we recruited volunteers and started filling some of those key coordinator roles. The games coordinator position, so that was Kelly's position, was filled in January 2023, and she took on the bulk of planning and managing all aspects of the games. So here's a look at what the organizational chart was. So we have all of the solid boxes are actually volunteer roles. So we had a games chairperson and co-chair, a number of key coordinators, that's the kind of navy blue line across the center there, and then sport chairs were the light blue, so they oversaw like organizing each of the individual competitions. So somebody organized bocce ball, for example, somebody organized tennis, and then a number of other just event volunteers, first aiders, tour guides, drivers, people helping out with food, the banquet, that kinds of things. So those were all of the yellow boxes there. And then the dashed boxes were staff positions. And then to the right, the Alberta 55 Plus board, which provided guidance to the committee in planning and hosting the games.
I'm going to talk about numbers. If you know me, you know that this is my weakness. In order to host the games, we need a little bit of base funding. We did a presentation to each municipality after receiving the bid, and we received $35,000 from both the city and the county. So that formed our base funding. We were then very fortunate to receive a number of cash donations as well as in-kind sponsorships from local businesses. And those totaled about $92,000 towards the cost of the games, which is absolutely unbelievable, and we're extremely fortunate for that. And then, as Randy had previously mentioned, we received a nonprofit status, which allowed us to host to receive AGLC funding, essentially. We got put on the kind of last-minute fill-in substitute list for casinos, which is like a shot in the dark, essentially. If another nonprofit group decides not to work their casino, which is very rare, then we would be called up. So we were placed on that list, I think, on May 1st, and we received a call that we had a casino in Lethbridge on May 4th, or something very close. Like, it was an absolute short period of time, and we were super fortunate to be able to have our own casino in Lethbridge that we worked. And then we also hosted a raffle last spring. So those gaming funds provided an additional $44,000, which was fantastic as well, because we didn't need to pull that out of the local economy. And then registration fees from participants were basically the largest bulk of our funding. That was an additional $72,000. Then we had some other small revenue sources, including things like banquet ticket sales, merchandise, which we'll talk about a bit later, camping, tours, and liquor sales. On the expense side of things, our largest line item is actually food. So for the structure of Alberta 55 plus games, what they expect is that all volunteers and participants are fed a lunch during each day of competition. So we had to feed essentially 800 people on the Friday for lunch and 800 people on the Saturday for lunch, as well as about 700 or 800 people during the opening ceremonies, and then I think upwards of 950 was what we had for the banquet on the Saturday night. So food ended up being our largest expense. And then we, of course, hired a staff person to be a central coordinator. And aside from her coordinator duties, Kelly also took on an additional responsibilities that weren't filled by volunteers, which is just another reason that hiring a staff person to play that central role is extremely important. We had a few facility fees, mostly for the golf course. We had to pay green fees. And then we did a little bit of facility upgrades to places like the horseshoe pits. We had to buy some equipment, that sort of thing. And then another expense that we talked about was selling of merchandise. So this ended up being actually a break even, but the committee was happy with that because our goal was to get our name and our brand out there and raise the profile of the region. We were also able to use a lot of the leftover merchandise as giveaways or thank yous to either volunteers or facilities that had helped us out. I'm wearing one of the shirts. I broke dress code today. To proudly display the merchandise that was very, very popular. So here is just kind of a very high-level snapshot of our revenue versus expenses. There's a typo on this slide that just absolutely drives me crazy, so please ignore that. And we should all put in a petition to have Microsoft add spell check to Excel. I don't know why they don't do that. But it does show that our financial position is just over $61,000 to the plus, which is great news. We owe that in large part to the amount of sponsorship and in-kind donations that were received.
In terms of volunteer recruitment, we had 2 members that stepped up to co-chair that committee. And they worked hard and advertised like crazy, and they got over 200 volunteers to pull off a successful games. Volunteers were needed to fill the roles of sports activity directors, scorekeepers, timers, results, merchandise sales, first aid, food service, bartending, hydration, transportation, tour guide, marketing, and photography. The volunteers were excellent representatives of the Brooks and worked hard for the success of the games. We received a lot of positive feedback about the hospitality they received. For merchandise, this was not something that has been done in previous games, but we decided to take a shot in the dark and make it work. After the logo and branding were created, options for souvenirs were chosen and ordered, which included the hoodies, t-shirts, golf shirts, vests, coffee mugs, wine glasses, playing cards, cozies, golf towels, and baseball hats. Through our supplier, people were able to pre-order off of our website and just pick them up at the game. And then we did set up an actual merchandise store in the lobby of the JBS Center where participants could go in. And like I said, we found out that was the first time that that had ever happened, and it went over extremely well. Tours was another new thing for participants and a new adventure for us. So we had about 50 people take advantage of the tours, and the tours were more so for the guest and spouse while their other half was competing in competitions. Tours included beer flight tour, and that was at Piston Broke, and then we took them out to Rolling Hills for a grains to glass distillery tour. There was a beach day, dinosaur park tour, CPR house, downtown tours, a country handcraft tour, high tea, and an aqueduct tour. Some tours had to be confirmed in advance, like the dinosaur park and high tea, which was difficult because the participants didn't actually receive their schedules until the registration. Sadly, we had to cancel 3 of our tours due to lack of participation. But they were tours that they could do in their own time, so we hope that they did. And the feedback for the tours was very positive, and they did say that they would not drive past Brooks next time they would stop in, which was the goal. And entertainment and special events. Opening ceremonies were held Thursday night following the registration. We had words of welcome from our delegates and a cultural performance from the Indigenous dancers from Blackfoot Nation. Since there was no competition planned for Friday night, our committee chose to host a street dance downtown. So we had the performers lined up, the whole community was invited, fireworks were planned, and if you could buy good weather, it would have been a really good party. Unfortunately, the attendance was very low due to the wind and rain. The participant banquet was held Saturday night. It was a buffet dinner and fed 935 people. The Brooks Hotel did a fabulous job hosting that. A Beatles cover band was selected for the entertainment, and the Beatles became the overall theme. The crowd was very invested into the theme. Many arrived in themed outfits, and the dance floor was full all night. They did say that this was the first 55 plus where they saw the dance floor full all night, and actual extra dance floors made. And the busing, last call for busing didn't affect that, so we must have done something right there. And we chose against having a closing ceremonies, and we opted to do the exchange of the reach torch at the banquet.
And the cool weather on Friday also made for some really good hoodie sales. So some lessons learned from the games. Usually communities have about 2 years to plan and coordinate an event like this. Ours was really short. We only had just over a year to actually pull this off, and we didn't actually have a chance to attend a 55 plus games in another community to see how it was run. So we actually had some folks from Leduc who are hosting the next 55 plus games come and see what we did in Brooks, and we didn't have that opportunity. So we did this going in a little bit blind, a little bit of experience from hosting other multi-sport and events, but never having done this particular games. Start recruiting planning committee members as early as possible, and those co-coordinator, having 2 people doing some of those roles was really, really beneficial, both for the key coordinator positions, like we had for the volunteer coordinators, medical coordinators, but even for some of the sport coordinators for some of the bigger events, so like those overseeing like track and field and stuff like that. Municipal support, so having the support for finances, facilities, and staff is absolutely essential. We couldn't have done it without the support from the county and the city, for sure. Advertise throughout the community to get them involved in the games, and this includes advertising zone competitions so that local athletes know that they have to participate in those zone competitions in order to qualify for the games. There was a lot of confusion about how people can participate and how they sign up. This was a qualifying game, so you actually had to qualify in zones in order to participate in these games, and there was a little bit of confusion around there. That has been communicated to the Alberta 55 Plus board as well, so that they can help alleviate some of that confusion. Set up places to camp or block off hotels as early as possible. We did have some challenges with accommodations as well, and we actually set up some just kind of temporary campsites in the overflow parking lot by the CRA there, and had some people, quite a few people actually stay out there, a couple dozen campers I think we had out there. And then also know your target market and plan accordingly. So considerations for things like communications, access to information. Do we do that in print? Do we do that online? How are the people we're trying to reach trying to get that information?
So moving forward, as I mentioned before, we are very fortunate to have a surplus that we ran from the games, just over $61,000. The planning committee would like to see some sort of commemorative or legacy project created to recognize the event and the competitors and the volunteer time that went into it. They are proposing to sponsor a sun shelter on the Kinbrook Connection Pathway, which is $15,000. They chose this project because it's not only a recreational project for the region, but it's also something that a person of any age, any ability can participate in as well. It'll be seen by both residents and visitors alike, so it's good access and exposure for them. And then they're also proposing that the remaining funds, which would be around $46,000, would be held in reserve for a future event, rather than having the additional funds returned back to the two municipal contributors, and then us coming forward again for our next event looking for municipal sponsorship. We would hold this money essentially in a trust or in a reserve, and it could be put towards a future event that the region hosts. With the Society's nonprofit status now established, we hope to continue to do some semi-regular fundraising moving forward to help build up that fund so that hosting games and events like this is much more financially sustainable, and that we don't have to come forward every time seeking sponsorships. So we are on the casino list, and we do still have the license to hold any raffles, that sort of thing. So the society has a separate board, and they have to meet regularly. So they have requested that we would continue fundraising a little bit to raise up that centralized pot of funding. So that's what's being proposed from the planning committee. Would have to be approved by both city and county council before that's finalized.
And that concludes our part of the presentation. So thank you again for your time, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I'll mention as well that the full report that was produced by Kelly as the games coordinator that was sent to the Alberta 55 Plus committee, it's like 100 and something pages. I sent it to Ariana, and she circulated as well. There's much more details in there. The more detailed budget and expenses are in there as well. And then reports from all of the coordinators and chairs if you want to learn more.
Okay. Well, thank you, ladies. And thank you for bringing 55 Games Plus to our region. That's quite a feat in such a short order of time. So congratulations and thanks again. I saw a question from Lynette over here.
Yeah, kudos to you guys. It was a pretty good event. What other events might you be looking towards in the future?
So we have submitted a letter of intent to bid on the 2026 Southern Alberta Summer Games. That would still have to be taken to council, and we would still have to submit the bid to do that. So those presentations will be forthcoming, I'm sure, once we get everything together. But that is the intent, is that we're hoping in 2026 to bring another event like this to the region.
Amanda?
The sun shelter, 15,000, right? Does that come out of the surplus? Yeah, so it leaves 46 then for the, oh, nice.
Yeah, that's the intent, is that we would use that $15,000 from the surplus, and then the remaining $46,000 would be held in trust for future events.
I just needed to clarify. Thank you.
Holly?
Just curious about the accommodations issue and campgrounds. So how far were people traveling to campgrounds? Were they camping at like Tilly or Rolling Hills Reservoir? Or, because I know all the campgrounds weren't full. So how far were participants willing to camp away from Brooks?
I know that they were camping in Dutchess. I had people camping in Dutchess, Tilly Brook. The one problem with Rolling Hills Reservoir was they wouldn't take the booking in advance. It was a first come, first serve, so that did throw an obstacle. I know that some that were going to camp in our dry camping spot did end up going out there. So they came all the way from Grand Prairie, all the way, and then ventured out.
Another question, Holly?
Yeah, when you came and asked for funding, you had talked about using some county facilities and getting the county involved. And from your presentation, I understand the only thing in the county was cycling in Patricia, if that's correct. So was there a reason you couldn't use any more county facilities? And you planned a few more. So how did that go?
I'll start, and then everyone can fill in the gaps. We had hoped to try to use facilities such as the Castles Hall, but found that it was booked. Additional facilities such as things in Tilly, like the schools. We found that the Alberta 55 Plus board, like the provincial governing body, didn't really love the idea of having to bus people as far as Tilly or as far as Bizano. So they suggested that it might be easier just to keep things as close as possible. So there were some facilities that we use, such as the junior high and Eastbrook Elementary, that very easily could have been held, in my opinion, in a county facility, whether it be in Tilly or Dutchess or Patricia or wherever. But it was the board's recommendation that we try to keep things as close as possible.
And I can add to that because that happened. That's where we took a bunch of our tours that were focused in tourist dollars being spent in the county. And then we ramped that up for like the craft tour and the brewery and all the things.
So I have a couple questions. That was partly one of mine. Thanks for asking it. The shelter, I'm wondering if you would include a bench in that construction, because I know that, and a plaque, of course, representing the 55 games. But I think it would be very helpful if we also had a bench at that shade shelter. Just a thought, and a bench is like $1,000 typically. So talk to the organizers of the pathway, but I think a bench would be helpful as well. This society that has been created, I'm suspecting it includes all of you. So, yeah, so it's this reserve money, is it going to stay in the city coffers? Because it is not gaming money, it is taxpayers' money.
Correct.
So is that where it'll stay, Lisa?
That's the intent. I think that because the society, it is made up of the three of us are members. Councillor Screever's also a member of the society, and a few other community volunteers. And we do have accounts set up through the credit union, but I think that based on the additional financial oversight that is done by the city and the county, the surplus funds are probably best held just in reserve with the city, and then they can be more closely monitored, essentially. So there is a small amount of gaming funding left over that we didn't have spent, I think to the tune of about $2,400, that can be held in the society's account. But since this money is not gaming money, the intention would be that it would be held with the city.
And totally advisable. Yeah. Like, yeah, you don't want to mix those.
Agreed.
Okay, good. I'll be upfront with you. Typical practice is when county divulges money and the profit is earned, then the money is proportionately returned. But we will have the conversation and we will see how it flushes out. Has City Council had their conversation yet?
Monday.
Monday,
Yeah,
okay.
you guys are our first stop.
Okay, great. I don't want to finish the conversation on that. I think it's amazing that you were able to bring so many people together in such a short order, and I really hope that this society is positive and able to go forward with other events, because adventures are what people are looking for, isn't it? Yeah. Any other questions from council? Yeah, Greg?
Not really a question, just a comment. It was a pleasure sitting on the committees with you and continue to do so. You know, really, this wouldn't have happened in the way that it did without the three of you, and I must commend you on what you did. It was my sitting on the committee and the little work that I did on the committee was overshadowed by the work you all did. So thank you very much for that. And it was a very successful games. I was able to volunteer. Me and my family volunteer with the track and field, and just everything went. The people that attended the games, the participants and their guests it was overwhelming. This was one of the best games they've ever seen. So thank you very much.
thank you for coming in today and reporting the good news. And thank you, Councillor Screever, for owning your ways. I think we'll break for lunch. I could, Ariana, do I have enough lunch to invite? Yeah. Oh, Ariana, will you speak to them? We're going to recess for lunch now. I just didn't want to do the invite without being sure, right? Yeah. That's a
In camera.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I would entertain a motion to move in camera.
I'll make that motion to go in camera.
Thank you. All in favor of Greg's motion? That's carried.